through this.
So what happens when your cameras detect movement, your doors detect access? You have a sensor that detects an anomaly. Your apps detect panic, and at the exact same moment that it's time to raise an alert. Yeah, that's not intelligence. That's just a bunch of noise. And that's coming up next on TiPS, Today in Public Safety.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Here's your host, Fletch, with today's tips.
Welcome to TiPS, Today in Public Safety. This is Fletch. I'm a NENA certified ENP, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I try to bring you the latest, most informative, and sometimes controversial takes on emergency communications. Today we're continuing our fictitious Ivy League campus series, where in episode 1 we talked about fragmentation. Episode 2 talked about the NG911 DMARC. In episode 3 we introduced a new architecture layer called UCECS. And today we're going to stress test the whole thing. Because once you connect everything starts talking. The IoT explosion is already here. Look, let's not try to pretend this is coming. It's actually here. Our campus already has smart cameras, access control systems, gunshot detection, environmental sensors, smart dorms, connected classrooms. And every single one of those systems can generate an event. Not a call, but an event. And that is where the shift is. We're very quickly moving from human-initiated calls to machine-generated alerts. And that's going to happen at scale. When everything is important, nothing is. Look, here's the problem. Most of these systems that were deployed independently. Every single one of them think its alert matters the most. Its data is complete and its signal is accurate. So what really happens? You don't get clarity. You get duplicate alerts, conflicting alerts, false positives, and alert storms. And if all that reaches the ECC, that turns into cognitive overload, slower decision making, and increased risk of missing the real event. And that's why we say, if everything is urgent, nothing is. The false confidence problem. Look, here's the dangerous part. IoT creates the illusion of certainty. A sensor trips, a camera flags movement. A system generates an alert, and it feels like verified information. But in reality, it's not. It's unvalidated input. And if you treat it like the truth, you start making decisions based on assumptions. And that's because data isn't intelligence until it's been proven. Why UCECS becomes mandatory. Now let's bring it back. This is exactly why that architecture layer matters. Because without it, every system talks independently. Nothing is correlated, and everything competes for attention. But with it, events are correlated, data is validated, alerts are prioritized, and noise gets filtered out. And that is where UCECS earns its keep. It answers questions like, are these events related? Is this real? And what matters most right now? From alerts to intelligence. This is really the transformation. In the old model, an alert was a human-interpreted action. In the new model, multiple inputs and correlation, along with validation, provide intelligence and action. So instead of, hey, something might be happening, you'll get verified incident information, location confidence, supporting data, and context delivered up front. And trust me, that changes everything for the ECC. The NG911 impact. Now, let's tie it back to that DMARC. Without filtering, you're going to flood the EZNet. You're going to overwhelm the PSAP. And ultimately, you're going to degrade the entire system. But with the proper architecture, you'll be able to send only what matters. You'll send validated data, and that data will be actionable intelligence. So the goal isn't to send more data to 911, it's to send the right data. Reality check. Look, at the end of the day, most campuses already have too much data. One of their problems is they just don't have a way to decide what data matters. And that is what the real problem is. The bottom line. Look, here's something that may shock you. IoT is not the future. It's actually the present. But without any coordination, it's nothing but noise. And when it comes to public safety, noise is dangerous because it hides the real signal. And that wraps up today's episode of Tips Today in Public Safety. Thanks so much for listening. For more updates and insights, remember to follow me on social media at Fletch911. And you can visit 911tips.com for a complete archive of all of my previous episodes. My blogs are available online at Fletch.tv. And my professional website is at Fletch911.com. Stay safe, thanks so much for listening. And if you're in public safety, thanks for what you do every single day. We'll catch you next time. Take care.
You've been listening to Tips Today in Public Safety, your go-to podcast for today's breaking stories and public safety news. Hosted by Fletch and available every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Catch past episodes on 911tips.com. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to join us each week for the latest on NG911. I am Spider Harrison, the official 911 voiceover dude. Catch me on Sirius XM on various channels, including 90s on 9, the 10 spot, and on the Weekend Countdown on Hits 1. Or don't regret it for the rest of your life. Either way, I'm good.